Today, I want to take a few minutes and talk about the topic of development, or in the world of higher education, it's referred to as institutional advancement. Educational organizations throughout the United States, whether they're elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, or universities or colleges, we're all searching for funds outside of our tuition base. Why is that important? Well, very simply, as most of you know, it's almost impossible to fund your operations, to pay the salaries that you want, to be able to build the buildings that you want without some kind of additional support. In most cases, higher education has been doing this for 50 years or more. They've been addressing their alumni, their past parents, their current parents, and asking for various levels of support. At the high school level, Catholic schools generally didn't do much until about the mid-1970s. And in that case, we started looking at how we could raise additional funds. So, schools opened up offices of development. Now, at the elementary and middle school level, what happened? Well, for the most part, they really weren't involved in any systematic fundraising, except for perhaps candy drives or selling wrapping paper. It really wasn't a concerted effort. It was basically asking somebody to buy a particular product, and as a result, the school would get some percentage of that. Now, for most parents, I think they would rather just give the school the money rather than going out and selling candy or wrapping paper. Now, a number of years ago, going door to door for small children wasn't that difficult. In today's society, almost no parents would allow their child to go door to door soliciting funds. Why? Because the world's a different place now. So as a result, schools generally go to their parents, in some cases just asking the parents, well, will you go to your offices? I know that many of you have been hit up, as they would say, for cookie drives, for candy drives, whatever it would be. Now, in my estimation, is that counterproductive? Absolutely. Because you're not really building a base of support. So let's go and look at the term development, and let's look at the term institutional advancement. The term development was put in place with the idea that we would be developing the institution. Our fundraising efforts, asking for support from various sources, would help develop the programs. Now, higher education moved to a little bit different terminology. They started using institutional advancement. Now, institutional advancement in higher education encompasses much more than the traditional development office, where you're basically looking for revenues of support. Institutional advancement is the umbrella that really hangs over the fundraising effort, looking for support from whether that's individuals, from corporations, from foundations. And it also includes the school's marketing. It also includes the school's enrollment management, which we often call admissions. All of those generally fall under the category of institutional advancement. Why? Because you are advancing the institution by getting in the best students. You're advancing the institution by marketing yourself. So that's the big umbrella that is over the institutional advancement arena. Now, for most of us, we don't look at those as an integrated system. We look at it as, I need X number of dollars, how can I get them? Institutional advancement looks at the strategic approach to garnering support, not just for today, but for the long term. That's why you include the marketing. Because if you don't have a brand out there, you're generally going to be left in the dust. Look at all the universities. At the University of Maryland, they are the Terrapins. And as a result, you will see the Terrapin on their logo. But you'll also find the seal of the school. You look at the University of Notre Dame. The Golden Dome appears on all their stationery. Why? Because they want people to understand how important their Catholic faith is. Because if you look at that dome, there is a cross on the top. What we try to do in institutional advancement is to develop the institution. Now, in development, what we try to do is raise the funds. That's why oftentimes you will hear people talk about the director of development. What does the director of development do? Well, their role can vary from school to school. Now, in some cases, they oversee the marketing, but perhaps not the admissions office or enrollment management. But development officers are charged with finding additional sources of revenue. Now, how do they do that? They do that in several categories. Number one, they will look for annual support. Now, when you hear about annual giving programs, what does that mean? Annual giving programs are generally designed to help offset the cost of operations. So if your tuition is $8,000 that you're charging parents, perhaps your real cost is about $9,000. So how do you make up that difference? That's where the annual giving program is supposed to help. Now, you also, and many schools have done this, they have used annual giving to support special projects. Now, this is a little controversial with some schools. Some schools say annual giving, by strict definition, means giving to support the operations, the daily operations, the yearly operations of the school, not special projects. But some schools have varied and said, this year we're going to try to raise money to buy new iPads next year. Or we are looking at redoing our playground because our budget can't support that. So what we try to do is look at how we can gain support. Now, it is a process. Now, in many cases, people think, well, I just send out a letter and whatever comes in, comes in. I would beg to differ. It must be a systematic approach. You need to develop a plan of action. You need to develop what they call a case statement. Why should someone give to your organization? Just because you exist? Well, there are a lot of institutions that exist out in the world today. What makes you so important to your particular constituents that would encourage them to give their money to you? That's the challenge. We say we come up with a case statement. A case statement talks about your mission. Why do you exist? What are your needs that support that mission? What are you looking for from the donors? And who will benefit from their giving? It's important that in a case statement you clearly spell those out. Because if you don't, your donors probably aren't going to be very willing to give. Why? You might be the nicest person in the world. But if they're going to give their dollars, and especially in this day and age when so many people are asking for your support, what will make the difference from having someone simply just look at you and say, I like your school, that's great, but I'm not willing to put extra dollars into it? Now, do you go and approach just your parents? No. You look at past parents, your current parents, and your alumni. Now, oftentimes in elementary schools, people say, well, people have gone on. Absolutely. But where did they get their foundation? They got their foundation from you in the elementary school or you in the middle school. When the concept of development started in the high schools, oftentimes people said, oh, we can't do this. No one's going to give to us. But what we found is if we had a strong case statement that clearly spelled out our mission, our needs, and the benefits to the students today and in the future, people were much more willing to give. So you have the annual giving program, and it doesn't just start a month beforehand. It starts basically July 1st. You review your successes and failures from the previous year. You look at what your needs are, and you start building your case statement. You start putting together your materials. You start building a committee that will help you. Now, oftentimes people say, well, that's the role of the director of development. It's true, but you, as the head of the institution, must be intimately involved in it. If you simply wash your hands of it, I can guarantee you that you will not be successful in gaining the funds that you need. Why? Because people are going to give because of your mission, your needs, the benefit to the students, and most importantly, their trust in you. They must believe that you will be a good steward for the money that they will invest in your institution. You must look at them as partners, and they are truly investing in the mission of Catholic education, in the mission of your school. That's what you're trying to market. That's what you are trying to sell. I would strongly encourage that you not simply rely on a mailing. Will a mailing get you some funds? Yes, but we all get so many letters asking for our help. What oftentimes bothers me is when I get the generic things. Dear friend, dear sir, dear alumni. Whenever I get those letters, I generally say, sorry, you're going in the circular file. You're going into the shredder. Why? Because if people don't even have the time to put my name and personalize the letter, even though I know that it's coming from a computer, if they can't make that extra step, I'm not going to give them my money because there's no relationship. Development is about building relationships. As the head of an institution, you are constantly building relationships with your faculty, with your students, with your parents, and also with your alumni. If all you do is go out to people once a year and ask for funds, and you never build relationships, don't expect to ever be able to meet your financial goals. The problem with so many of our schools is we have been reluctant to ask for funds. And as you noticed early on, when you started looking at the history of Catholic schools in the United States, one of the things that you found is that our Catholic schools are fading. Why? Because of poor facilities. Because they're not able to offer programs that provide the best opportunity for success for our students. Can we be successful and are we successful? Absolutely. But we are competing on a daily basis for students with public schools, with other private schools, and now even with homeschooling. So the question is, what are you going to do? And my suggestion, first and foremost, is develop a plan to build relationships. You, as the head of the school, need to get out from behind your desk and talk to parents. Tell them about what's going on at the school. You need to be the storyteller. Anytime you are going to be asking someone for funds, you need to be able to tell the stories of your students, of your graduates. If you can't do that, again, why should someone support you if you don't know the people you're talking about? If they don't see the passion, the fire that's inside of you for helping the students at your school, they're not going to jump on board a ship that seems to be just floating out there. So when we talk about development, we're talking about developing an annual giving program where it involves mailings, perhaps it involves the creation of a video, perhaps, and it should involve personal solicitations on the part of the director of development as well as the head of the school. Now, in addition to that, you have to look at what else we'll be able to do to build relationships. Now, one of the things that I used over the years was for all incoming parents, I would hold a series of meetings during the summer called Coffee and Conversations, where I'd invite small groups in to meet with myself and my administrative team, to be able to tell them our story, to get them excited about the fact that their child is now a part of our school and that we were committed to doing everything in our power to make sure that their child was successful. So, what we're trying to do is build relationships. Annual giving starts with relationships. Now, some schools try to rely on special events. Now, that can be successful. But don't look at that as the sole avenue of support, because it will not be sustained. Because you want to build relationships with donors that will continue to donate and support and partner with you well after their child is gone and well after they have graduated from the institution. You have to look at what are you doing for your alumni. How inviting are you? Are you welcoming them? Are you sending them information about the school? Those are things that you need to do. So you have annual giving. You have relationship building. And I would suggest that you develop what they call a major gifts campaign. Hopefully your school has developed a strategic plan that addresses the needs of the school, not just today, but for 3 and 5 years or more down the road. What you need to do is try to target particular donors with particular projects. And the only way you can do that is if you've built a relationship up with those individuals, that you know something about them. You know that someone's really interested in making sure that students who want to come to the school are able to come and that they get the needed financial aid. You need to know that someone wants to set up a scholarship for a STEM program. You need to know that somebody is really interested in the music program and is willing to support it because of their own love of music or drama or art. Whether you're talking about development or the broader institutional advancement, everything that happens really focuses on building relationships and telling the story. And as in everything else in successful organizations, you need to make sure that you have a clearly defined plan You must also make sure that you update that plan. You monitor its success and its failures. And after it's over, you evaluate it. You also need to make sure that your stakeholders are involved. I hope these thoughts on development and institutional advancement help clarify the critical role that advancement or development plays in sustaining and building a strong future for our schools, not just today, but for years and years to come. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My numbers are on the screen. Thank you and have a great day.